feeling?
I'm all right.
I meant, are you ready to do the show?
Oh yeah, man, let's go.
Okay. All right. Pause for coughing.
Yes.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Thori says everyone gets a murder.
Moon Knight is a nutcase trying to bring stability to a constantly evolving mindscape.
You want to do that again?
Yes.
Okay.
Evolving.
Evolving.
Evolving. Okay.
I haven't slept, so I'm slightly delirious.
Yeah.
Three, 2, 1. Hey there, Marvel fans. Thori says everyone gets a murder.
Moon Knight is a nutcase trying to bring stability to a constantly evolving mindscape.
You bring the blowtorch.
All this and more on this week's episode of the 6 Months Behind podcast.
Three, 2, 1.
What is up? This is the 6 Month Behind podcast for the week of 1/2019. I am Pat.
And I, as always, am Sean.
And this week, we're Dabo Swinney and Nick Saban one last time just because college football is about to end and, you know, that's who we are. How you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. How are you? You're sick, obviously.
I'm sick, you know, sound a little rough. I'll be hitting the mute button a lot and coughing, but, you know, it's okay.
Yeah.
How's your 2019 off to?
It's fine. It's whatever. Not much different from 2018.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, man, Nick Saban, Dabo Swinney, head coaches of both Alabama and Clemson, respectively, will be playing for the national title
again
tomorrow evening. Again, for what, the third, fourth time?
I think last year they met in the semifinals.
Yeah.
So, but this is the third time in fourth year they've met in the championship game.
Yeah, they've played each other every year for the last at least 4 years.
In the playoffs, yes.
Yeah. Dude, Clemson beat the pants off of Notre Dame.
Yes.
I really wanted Notre Dame to do better in that game. I didn't think they'd win. I wanted them to win, but they didn't.
No. Alabama beat the brakes off Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't even a game. So yeah, it's going to be, and you know, people go, well, this is boring. We're tired of seeing these two teams in the playoffs, and it's like, yeah, but they're the best two teams in the whole country. Like, you could stick any college football team any day of the week, any time of year up against either of these teams, and they'd lose.
You know, my niece is dating a young man, and he grew up in somewhere in Africa. I want to say Angola. That may not be right. And he texted her last week during the playoff or during the bowl games, and he was like, "Why do Americans support and cheer the amateurs and not the pros? And why don't the amateurs get paid since they're generating so much money and so many people are supporting them?" And we were all sitting around, you know, all the family was sitting around, and I was like, I don't know. That's a great question.
Because we don't. And the reason is we pretend that it somehow makes the college athletes better. The truth is that the universities don't want to get rid of that money.
It's just, it's an antiquated system that began 120, 30 years ago, and the NCAA has fought it all the way to the Supreme Court, and they're holding the ground. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I think Nick Saban makes what, $10 million a year?
Yes, plus bonuses.
Plus bonuses, so it's like what, a $500,000 bonus if he wins.
Dude, he'll make $11-12 million this year.
Right, like he gets a bonus for every time they win a game like this. I think he gets $300,000 for winning bowl games and playoff games, and then $500,000 for national title, and then he has a retaining fee to, like, if he comes back as coach the next year, he gets like $50,000.
The defensive coordinator for Clemson's making $2.5 million a year.
Yeah, and that's insane.
It's
Meanwhile, you have these college athletes who, not all of them, but a lot of them are struggling for money. And then they you have these coaches and these athletic directors who skirt the system and give the money to the players anyway.
I saw an article a couple of years ago, and it was about Alabama and Texas mainly. But Alabama and Texas generate more revenue with their athletic program than all the NHL teams and all the Major League Baseball teams and national basketball teams, except for like the major markets, New York, Boston, Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Those two sports programs at Alabama and Texas generate more revenue than those professional teams. You're listing about 120 teams there, and they're probably generating more revenue than 70 or 80 of them.
That's insane.
It is insane. It really is.
I don't know how the Cleveland Browns are still around. I don't know how they generate revenue at all.
Did their fans show up, man?
I don't know why. That team sucks.
Well, yeah, but the NFL is a true revenue sharing system.
That's true.
I mean, other than like parking and I think concessions, everything goes into a pile and is split 32 ways between those teams.
Yeah.
Everything. Other than like what's generated specifically at the stadium in the form of parking and concessions and maybe a couple of other little things, everything goes to the league and then everything goes back out, man. Yeah. 32 ways.
It's really something. It's something.
Yep.
Can you hear that?
No.
Okay. My heater's running. I didn't know if you could hear it.
No, hang on. All right.
Okay. We'll bring us back in.
Pick it up at the email and website.
Something like that.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Anyway, we're not here to talk football. We're here to talk about comic books. But if you have opinions on football, college or professional or high school, if you're so inclined, if you live in the South, please email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That is the number 6 months behind @gmail.com.
You can go to the website where you will not find football stories at www.6monthsbehind.com.
You can also check out our other show, What's Next. We might be recording a new episode soon, so stay tuned.
We'll see if I have a voice left when this one's over.
Yeah.
Did you see that dude in the Cowboys last night?
I watched a little bit of that game, but we were busy enough at work that I couldn't pay a whole lot of attention.
Dude, he went down and he wasn't getting up, and it took a moment to look to realize his foot was facing the wrong way from where he had shattered his ankle.
Oh!
I mean, it was literally turned around backwards, man. They did surgery on the dude last night. I mean, he's like laying there a minute, and you can tell he's hurt, and he's hitting the ground. But you're like, "What's wrong with him?" And then you see his left foot, and it's just flipped around, dude. It was all bad, man.
That's awful. That's career ending too.
Probably, yeah. I mean, they can do a lot of things with surgery these days, man. It may not be, but it was bad, brother.
Yeah, but that he'll never play right again. That ankle will never be the same after something
Probably
like that.
Probably not, though. No.
It's like Prothrow. I mean, that dude never played football again.
No. I saw him. We went one of the spring games. They had a bunch of ex-players out there, and he still walks with a limp and can't run right. I mean, don't get me wrong. He got out there and played and had a good time, but dude, he still can't run.
I hope he got his degree and fell back on something because
I think he's working as a bank teller and selling merchandise before games.
Okay. Well, he can get by on that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk about comic books now. And just to let you know, we do discuss spoilers on the show. If you have not read all the comic books that came out this week, please be advised that we are going to discuss spoilers in depth for some of this stuff. And being that we are 6 months behind, we may end up talking about stuff that is to come. Things that may happen in the future of Marvel Unlimited that are happening currently on store shelves, or things that aren't even coming out yet. So just be forewarned, if you have not read all the books, you can pause here, come back later, we will still be here.
Yeah. Before we get too far into that, what are we calling this relaunch that Marvel's doing with all these number ones? This soft relaunch you're doing to the universe. Is there a title for it or something?
They haven't monikered it, and I think that's intentional because it seems like every time they do, it doesn't go well.
Yeah, so they're just when CB Lebowski took over, what, a year ago now, I guess?
At least.
They started relaunching some of these things. I was looking at what's coming out in the next couple of weeks, and there's more number ones coming out in the next couple of weeks, and I think they're really heading in the right direction, man. I really like a lot of these stories. I think it's going somewhere, and I'm really enjoying what they're doing. How about you?
We're not too far into it yet. I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of stuff, even under Axel Alonso's tenure,
right?
But they seem to be hitting on more cylinders than they were then.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know if their sales are any better, but
they're not bad. I was looking at the numbers, and I'm going to post them on the website. Assuming I don't go to sleep and sleep for 2 days after this is over. They're not direct sales in all, I think, are up 3 or 4% over 2017, and Marvel sales are doing all right. Fantastic Four book sold real good. And I'm talking about the books that we'll be getting in the next few weeks. Yeah. The Fantastic Four book sold real good. Here's what was funny when I was looking at those numbers. Spider-Man 801 sold for $3.99 and sold like 110,000 copies. Spider-Man 800 sold for $9.99 and sold like 40,000 copies.
Really?
Yeah. It was, I mean, because I saw 801, I thought, well, where's 800? And I had to scroll way down the list to find 800. I'm telling you, that $10 cover price for them isn't working.
It's never worked. They can say it works. They can say it works. And yeah, does it help the bottom line of the brick and mortar store? Sure. But dude, like $10 is 3 to 4 more comic books I can't buy.
Dude, I got Fantastic.
I just got it with wealth.
I got Fantastic Four number 5, which is the wedding of, well, it's a wedding. Well, everybody knows it's the wedding of Ben Grimm and Alicia Masters.
Yeah.
And I think it was $8.
Dude, no.
I know.
Like if it's a special issue, if you want to bump it $1, I get it. I may not be happy about it, but I understand. $8-10 for, something like
one
that.
Book. Yep.
Dude. And it obviously reflected in Spider-Man 800, which was a great comic book.
Yeah. I know. It's
and
insane,
it'll be in a dollar bin 6 months from now.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah,
probably so. I tell you what, I'm reading that Uncanny. I didn't buy it initially, and then I went back and bought every issue except number 1 because I didn't want to pay $10 for it. And I'm up to like number 4 or 5. It's X-Men Disassembled. I think it's really good, man.
Is it?
Yeah, it really is. I'm trying to get caught up on it.
Who's writing that thing?
I don't know. I should be able to tell you, but I don't remember. I was reading some of it last night. It's really good, man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're getting back to X-Men roots. They've been doing that with the gold and blue and red stuff, but getting back to Uncanny X-Men, doing a disassembled type thing. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it really it's working out, and I kind of got a Marvel previews and see where it's going, where it'll be in a month or two, and we'll get, in 7 or 8 months. And that's what got me excited about it. And then I read the first issue and I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. So anywho, on to this month's comics. First up in the Infinity series, we have Infinity Countdown, Dark Hawk number 3. First off, this is a great cover by whoever Scon is. That's a great cover, man.
Yeah.
And I went back and there's so much reference to what happened in Dark Hawk 51 that that's not one shot. You remember a few months ago when they did those one shots?
Yeah, and I was complaining, why are they doing a Darkhawk one shot? Also, who's Darkhawk?
Yeah. Well, I went back and read it because it ties together the Darkhawk series from the 90s and this. And what they did was a not a major reboot of the character, but a pretty serious reboot of how his stories work to make it tie in with this whole Talon and Raptors thing. And this is a continuation of this. The first thing we see is I'm just going to call it the Darkhawk Phoenix Force. I don't know what it is. The Darkhawk Phoenix blows up a Skrull ship that was fighting a Kree ship just because, he thought the Kree ship looked cooler. So he blew up the Skrulls, not the Kree. And then we go back to where we left. Not Rich Rider, that's Nova. Chris Powell. And he's wakes up and he's outside his body talking to Razor. And if you don't know who Razor is, you got to go back and Razor is like Darkhawk Prime, like the first Darkhawk from tens of thousands of years ago. So anyway, and he's outside his body, and Razor basically gives him a recap of the origin of the Darkhawk. And turns out he's one of the cosmic beings of the universe, like, the Collector and the Games Master and all those guys. He's like one of the origins. And he's like, look, dude, you can get over this. You can put this together, but you got to think bigger. Okay. And that's why he showed him all the universal things so he can understand what the Darkhawk concept is. And it took Chris a few minutes to get his head wrapped around it. And once he got his head wrapped around it, then he transformed into basically another Phoenix. And what the Darkhawk is supposed to be. There's some funny lines here with Deathhead. Actually, the stuff with Deathhead is pretty funny.
Dude, Deathhead's hilarious.
There's like a page with Deathhead there. Deathhead needs his own comic book. And then he
show up in Squirrel Girl.
He needs to show up somewhere, man. Anyway, then he goes after the Raptors. And they're surprised to see Chris Powell alive, but he is, and he's going after him.
Yeah. So this went from that one shot that they did, and I was like, I don't know who this is, and I don't care, to the first issue being like, okay, I still don't care, to the end of the second issue being like, that took a turn, to something I really enjoyed reading.
Yeah, that's why I backed up and read that Darkhawk number 51, because I guess it's been a year since that thing came out.
Close to.
And well, I tell you what, if you look for it, it's Darkhawk 2017 is where it kind of stands alone by itself as Darkhawk 2017. That's how you'll find it.
Yeah, they had to have been at least a year ago.
Yeah.
If not more. Maybe more.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
anyway, it turned out to be really good. And if it's a character you're not familiar with and you're not interested, I'd tell you to maybe take a look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good reboot with it, man.
Yeah. No Avengers comics this week. We will move straight into X-Men with X-Men Blue number 30. So if you've been keeping up with this, they kind of tied the X-Men Blue team in with the whole Venom Poison war thing that's kind of been going on. And Jimmy Hudson, who's like an alternate universe young Wolverine, is essentially the last of those poisons. And he's kind of having this identity crisis where he's Jimmy Hudson, and then sometimes he'll transform into the poison, but he's also Jimmy Hudson. It's a thing. Anyway, at the end of last issue, Daken showed up and is going to throw down with Jimmy Hudson here because he's trying to kill the poison or whatever. There's also like as is usually the thing with Daken, there's a axe to grind because he's another Wolverine and Daken doesn't like being, the bridesmaid at a wedding. Anyway, most of this issue is them duking it out, and it's a really epic fight. And a consequence of Jimmy Hudson now being one of the poisons is he remembers all of his past. And what we find out here at the end is Jean Grey reads his mind, kind of links up with him and says, hey, I'm, Jimmy Hudson's still in there. He's not just the poison wearing a Jimmy Hudson suit. He's still in there. Daken also reveals that Magneto is on the warpath and he intends to take out Emma Frost. I almost said Emma Watson. Yeah, Emma Frost. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. It looks like it's going to be the young X-Men team who, up until recently, were training under Magneto, are now going to be fighting Magneto.
We just discussed Uncanny X-Men and what's going on there, but they're really doing some good stuff with the X-Men. And I was looking to see when Exterminated comes out, and it's about a month away. I didn't see it in the shipping dates for the next few weeks, so let's see. This is January. We'll probably get it sometime in February on Unlimited. It's really good, and then they get into that X-Men Black stuff, and the Uncanny launches about that time. It's good stuff, man. Did you enjoy this book? I know you've been kind of down on X-Men Blue.
It was a better issue than it. I enjoyed it more than I have previous issues. I haven't been a big fan of this comic for probably the last 10, 12. No, I liked it for a while, but the last 10 or 12 issues, I've not been into it. I was super not into them being in space.
Right.
And then they did the whole Mother Vine thing, which wasn't bad. It just wasn't my cup of tea. But I understand why they did it, because they're setting up pieces on a board to reset the whole X-Men.
Yeah, they are.
And they're doing things in this comic to facilitate that. So they're playing with these young characters. I have a feeling these young characters are not going to be around a whole lot longer. In some form or another. So it was good. It was all right. It was a good action comic. Like, sometimes you have comics that are heavy on the dialogue, heavy on the plot, heavy on the story. This had some of that, but it was a fight. It was the fight between Dakin and Jimmy Hudson, and that was good. I enjoyed it.
It was good. You were talking about comics that were heavy on talking. That would be Hunt for Wolverine Mystery and Madripoor #2. Now,
I'll admit, I really do like the art in this comic, but that's about it.
It's not bad. I mean, the team got their butts kicked last time by Viper and all these women who I'm not even about trying to figure out who they are. Kitty, Domino, and Jubilee escape and go regroup, and they go back to the Patch safe house. We learned that these people have Magneto imprisoned. Sapphire is living off people's souls, and whoever Viper is working for, she's trying to tell them that she's getting out of control, and they won't listen. So the three young ladies who are left decide to go the Patch route and just go around and start interrogating and questioning and beating people up in Low Town and High Town and whatever. Turns out that they're launching some kind of missile. I don't know what, but they're up to something. And then at the end, we have Wolverine and his Patch persona show up. So we'll see where this is going.
That was the thing that threw me off.
We'll see where it winds up at.
Yeah, we'll see. I assume it's another illusion.
You assume, yeah.
Yeah. Multiple Man #1. Now, Multiple Man is Jamie Madrox, and his abilities is that he can duplicate himself, copies of himself, hence Multiple Man. Now, you and I both remember during the war with the Inhumans, Jamie Madrox died. Jamie Madrox is dead. So how then can Multiple Man, Jamie Madrox, be in his own solo series? Well, let's find out. We open with the New Mutant team on a mission of some kind, breaking into some old bunker, where they find Jamie Madrox alive. Or at least he's a duplicate of Jamie Madrox. Now, you might say, well, how did he not die? Turns out he's been experimenting on himself so that he wouldn't go away whenever something happened to Jamie Madrox, for the express purpose of this reason. So that's a nice little way to sweep that under the rug. The problem is that whatever experiment he's done on himself isn't sustainable. So at some point, he will, in fact, genetically degrade and die. The Beast tells him this later on. So Jamie Madrox's solution to this is to first still Beast sandwich and eat it, and then still Kitty sandwich and eat it out of the refrigerator, and then knock the crap out of Bishop and steal his time machine and go back in time. 20 minutes later, he comes back from the future to the lab that Beast is in, and he's like, "Hey, did you ever make that cure?" And he's like, "No." He said, "Okay, good." And everybody's confused because he's like, "Dude, it's been like 10 minutes. No, of course I haven't had time to make the cure." And Jimmy's like, "Oh, let me wrap up the confusion. You just saw me 20 minutes ago, but it's been like years for me because I jumped into the future. Listen, I need you to not make that serum. You know, whatever that cure is, don't do it. Just let me die." And that's when everything breaks loose. Essentially, all these versions of Jamie Madrox from the future show up and wreck the X Mansion. One of them is like Deadpool. Another is a Jamie Madrox version of Cable, who's also got like a weird technovirus thing going on, where like his techno organic virus is active, and yeah, like half of his body looks like Warlock. And then like Sorcerer Supreme Jamie Madrox shows up with Hulk Jamie Madrox, not Sorcerer Supreme. Well, might be. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, he's like, "Look, we're all future versions of you, and we need you to not do what you just did." So we'll find out in the next issue what the heck is going on, because you're very much left with this "what the heck is going on" thing at the end of this comic. Written by Matt Rosenberg, who I like quite a bit. Who's doing the art here? Andy McDonald. Good art. Art's fine. It was an intriguing first issue.
I'm trying not to do spoilers here. The Multiple Man, Jamie Madrox, plays a pretty big part in the uncanny stuff that's coming. And I forget what issue I read, but he is just hilarious in the issue. And we'll talk about it when we get there, man. It's a great. I'm glad to see them using him in different ways again.
Yeah, he's a character I like quite a bit. So I was sad to see him die, and I'm glad they're kind of like bringing him back around.
Right. Next, we have Old Man Logan, number 42. And he is fighting Kraven there in the Savage Land. Actually, he's fighting Kraven and a T-Rex there in the Savage Land. And this is a good book. We were talking about, dialogue books and action books. This is a complete action book.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he leaves Kraven fighting the T-Rex. Well, he makes his escape and tries to recover. He hides in a cave and has a vision of his family from the Wastelands. And you got to remember, in this Old Man Logan book, this is Logan from the future, an alternate reality future, where he killed all the X-Men. And this is actually a pretty important couple of pages, because his family's there and they want him to come be with them, but they don't want him to die. So this causes Logan to rally and do what he could do, which is beat the crap out of Kazar, or Kraven the Hunter. I'm sorry, Kazar shows up in a few pages. Because he's just, dude, he's Wolverine, and Kraven the Hunter even tells him, you still got it inside of you. He's like, yeah, but now I'm Logan and I control it. Then he sees Kazar. He leaves Kraven in the hands of Kazar, takes the airplane, and decides to go home and find a way back to the Wastelands where his family is. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, good issue. These last two have not been my favorite, but that's fine.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah. Moving on to Spider-Man, we have Spectacular Spider-Man number 306. So, okay, we're going to play a little catch-up. Do you remember in the previous issues, Peter Parker and friends went into the past in order to stop something from happening in the future, ended up screwing up the timeline, had to deal with the fallout from the alternate timeline, and are now back in their present corrected timeline, right?
Yes.
Do you remember why they were going back to the future in the first place?
No.
The Tinker had been in contact with a scout
That's right.
from a race of alien robots who had essentially shown up in force to take over the planet. They went back in time to prevent that from happening. We are now back in the present corrected timeline where we're now dealing with an alien invasion of robots. Okay. Because if you're like me, it took you a couple pages to be like, what the heck is going on? And then remember, oh yeah, this is the storyline that we started 14 issues ago. No joke, dude. It's been like I exaggerate, but it's been probably
a while.
It's 8 or 9 issues for real. So we're dealing with that. Spider-Man, Daredevil, Black Panther, and a few others have teamed up and come up with a solution to the problem, which is essentially a pill full of nanobots that will be able to shut down all the other robots if they're able to access the central core that they all operate off of. Spider-Man, of course, immediately takes this pill, infusing himself with the nanobots, and he knows he has to go and essentially throw himself into this core to save the world. So he goes to do that. He's pretty sure it's a suicide mission, and it's going to be a throwdown with Spider-Man and the Tinker in a upgraded suit in the next issue. Which, you know, of course, Spider-Man won't survive because he said so in that page when he was talking to his sister. Yep, into Spider-Man.
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah. Does anybody believe that? Like any of these heroes that die, that they're ever really dead?
Dude, it's a whole joke within comic bookdom that, you know, dead doesn't mean dead.
Anyway, let's keep going. I was going to give a major spoiler that I've been trying to avoid, but let's keep going before I talk about it. Amazing Spider-Man Wakanda Forever came out, and you and I do two things. Number one, we don't really like there's a series out this week with the where they're hyping the Marvel cartoons. You know, we really don't cover those books.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is, if it fits in the 616 universe, if it doesn't. I mean, okay, sure. Some girl is trying to get the Black Panther to come to New York to see her. It's okay. I don't care.
She was one of the Dora Milaje, and she got corrupted by some drug. I forget exactly. You need to go read the Christopher Priest Black Panther stuff, man.
The Dora Milaje show up, and they and Spider-Man fight the girl with her whatever that cloud is grabbing people. Sure, whatever. It wasn't great.
It was okay. It's got some punchy dialogue. They find out that there's a secret AIM laboratory hidden in the wreckage of the Titanic, which is pretty funny.
That is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's all right. I think this is just there was a big pop coming off of Black Panther last year, so they had to rush some stuff out, and they went, "How can we sell Black Panther books? Put Spider-Man in it," and I think that's what this is.
Sure.
It's well done. It's just not a whole lot of substance. But it's a fun comic book.
Yes. Another fun comic book was Black Panther #2 in the 616 universe.
Dude, I'm loving this Black Panther comic. So if you didn't read the first issue, Ta-Nehisi Coates is basically taking Black Panther, and I don't know if this can't be set in the 616 universe. It can't be. This has got to be out of continuity.
I don't think it is. I think it's
what I would refer to as like an Elseworlds tale, where you're telling different stories with the same characters, but in a reimagined way that is in no way within the continuity of the Marvel universe.
Well, I was trying to think of the difference between an alternate timeline and the 616 universe, and I guess they're the same. I mean, it's once you create alternate timelines in the future, you've created a separate universe. So.
Right. Like, I mean, this is a universe that is happening somewhere in the multiverse, but this is not mainline Black Panther continuity in the Marvel universe.
We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah. It's the intergalactic empire of Wakanda.
Yeah.
Where essentially there's the Wakanda became an intergalactic empire. It has become oppressive in its time. T'Challa is no one. He's not no one knows who he is. He's just some nobody, or at least so we're led to believe. And he gets recruited by this rebel group, and it's T'Challa and M'Baku and what's her name? Nakia, I think. I think it is Nakia. Because what he's done here is he's telling an alternate universe Afrofuturism story with the same characters, and all these characters have been reimagined and retooled. Like later in this issue, we meet the Emperor of the Wakandan Galactic Empire, and of course it's Killmonger.
Of course.
Yeah. So what the plot of this particular issue is that the rebels are attacking an Imperial base. And dude, this whole issue is the Death Star scene from the first Star Wars movie.
Sure.
It is the canyon run from Star Wars. They're flying these fighters in, this battle station that looks a whole lot like the Death Star. They're trying to destroy it. Fighters are being blown up. T'Challa's doing amazing things with his fighter. He's able to save the day and be successful. The Emperor hears about it. He's pissed. Of course, this is when it's revealed that Killmonger is the current Emperor. He's got something going on with his suit. I don't know if it's a symbiote or what, but there's something going on with his suit where he can control it. It looks a whole lot like a symbiote. And there's also some suggestion that T'Challa, as we see him here, the thing is, he doesn't remember who he is. He has no memories of his past, but he catches little glimpses of things occasionally. And there is some foreshadowing here that perhaps he was once the Emperor, and was deposed by Killmonger and had his mind erased and was just left on a planet somewhere to die. So yeah, it's a really interesting like space story. It's very much science fiction. There's some explanation in the back if you get to the end of the issue. There's Ta-Nehisi Coates goes through the major players and kind of, okay, here's who this is, here's what they're doing here, here's what they're doing, what they're about, who they're aligned with, who the major factions are, what their role is. It's really good. Let's see who's doing the art here. Let me navigate back to the page if Marvel will be okay. I can't go back to the page because the Marvel app's being a butt. Daniel Acuna is doing amazing art in this comic. Of course, Ta-Nehisi Coates is writing it, so it's going to be great. Early contender for my favorite book this week.
Next we have Deadpool Assassin #2. And Weasel has again hooked Deadpool up with another contract as he's in both Deadpool series that are going on right now. This is a 5-issue limited series. He's reestablishing himself as an assassin. And the guy that I don't know if we're ever told this guy's name or what he does, but he's in New Orleans, and the League of Assassins there in New Orleans is out to kill the guy. And first they send some apprentice, then they send a couple of other killers, and Deadpool takes them all. And along the way, these people are like, you're the same thing as we are. You're an assassin. Why are you helping this guy? And Deadpool's like, I have a code. Well, what is that code? Well, it's a code. Well, okay. That code allow you to protect people like this slime ball. And finally, they get him in alone. And he's like, Deadpool's like, yo, dude, what is it you do? And he doesn't really say they don't spell it out in the comic book. Either he's doing some kind of test on kids or he's molesting kids, and you're kind of they kind of leave it vague as to what he's doing with kids. But
yeah, either way, it's some dark stuff involving children.
Yeah, and Deadpool gets Weasel on the phone and says, "Look, dude, did you know about this? Better yet, don't answer, because if you did, then he kills the dude that he's been protecting and says, if you knew he was like this, I'm going to kill you. So just don't answer the questions." And then we go back to the League of Assassins where Belladonna Boudreaux is sitting there, and she's like, "So let me see if I got this right. He killed all the people we sent after him. Then he killed the guy he was protecting, and we were supposed to kill." And they were like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Okay, as messed up as that is, even for Deadpool, I can't let that stand in New Orleans." So she's going to send another team of assassins out to get him. This was good. And Mark Bagley drew it, so it looks good.
Ooh, I might, I often don't read this Deadpool stuff, but I might check it out just for Mark Bagley's art.
It's pretty good, man. This is a good little book.
Yeah. Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur 32 is a thing that happened. Wilson Fisk, who's now the mayor of New York, sends his daughter to PS20, which is the school that Lunella attends, with the express intention of spying on the school and making sure that they can. He essentially wants to destroy the school. He's going to shut down a bunch of schools, make sure private schools are the only thing that exist anymore, so that his elite criminal buddies can get their kids' education while everybody else just has to fend for themselves. It was fun.
Yeah. Next, we have Marvel 2-in-1 number 7. Now, in the Marvel 2-in-1 annual that came out last week, Dr. Doom decided he was going to assist Ben Grimm because he knows that this scientist, Rachna Cole, is deceiving Ben and Johnny, and that Reed and Sue are dead and they're on a fool's errand. Well, in this issue, they go to another multiverse looking for Reed and Sue and wind up in what's basically a battle world. And it's pretty entertaining. There's a Doctor Strange there who's serving what appears to be Spider-Man, who's running this battle world.
Yeah, insane Spider-Man.
An insane Spider-Man, yes. I don't think it is, but he's like wearing his mask. I don't think it's Peter Parker, but anyway.
I think it's Peter Parker. I think there was the civil war between Tony and Cap, and Peter Parker couldn't deal with it, so he just killed them both.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Whoever this is, that's what he did. So, anywho, they wind up in Battle World facing these monsters. Turns out one of these monsters is Ratchet's sister. And before she can stop them, they kill the sister. I think Doom does. Maybe, I don't know, one of them does. Then she's all upset because she can't find one of her sisters. It's not brain dead because her sister on Earth 616 is brain dead, and she wants to find one so she can take her brain, put it in it, yada, yada, yada. Then it all goes south, and she runs away with the multisect. Doom goes after her, and Johnny and Ben are left stranded on the world by themselves.
Yeah, there you go.
It's okay. This has actually been a pretty good series, and I'm buying it off the newsstand, and it is a good series. These last couple of issues have just kind of drugged, so.
Yeah, this wraps up with issue 9, 10, something like that.
I'm still getting it off the newsstand, so I'll let you know when it does.
Okay. Maybe it just reintroduces the Fantastic Four around that time. I forget.
It reintroduces Fantastic Four, and you get I think you get a Johnny Storm, Sue Storm team up. You get a thing and Mr. Fantastic team up. You get stuff like that. I think there's a thing in Iron Man in there somewhere. You get that sort of thing.
Cool. Miss Marvel 31. It's an extra long issue this week. Kind of celebrating Miss Marvel. It's very much a Miss Marvel issue of Miss Marvel. By the way, G. Willow Wilson, who created this character and has been writing this character for years, submitted her final script for Miss Marvel this week. So it'll be a while before we see it, but yeah, she's moving on. She's going to move on to Wonder Woman over at DC. And it's another excellent writer that Marvel's lost out of their bullpen.
Yeah, they have, man. But as we were discussing earlier, they're doing good work. And they actually call the artists the Young Guns. And
yeah, I'm familiar with the Young Guns.
They're doing some good stuff, man.
Yeah, I mean, Donny Cates is one of these people. You know, Donny Cates. I didn't know who Donny Cates was until he started writing stuff at Marvel. He did this issue of Venom that we're going to discuss in a moment. Max Bemis is one of these guys who was doing some creator-owned stuff beforehand, but Marvel picked him up, and he's doing this, and he's done some X-Men stuff, and he's doing really good. You know, Marvel's good at cultivating talent. They don't seem to be good at holding on to it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much they want to pay.
That's my thing, dude, is I don't know what they make. I've got this feeling that Marvel pays less than the distinguished competitor.
That's good. Distinguished competitor, DC.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, that was Stan Lee's term.
Okay.
Speaking of, I don't know if you've picked up a DC book in the last month, but in the back of every issue that they're publishing for the next month is a tribute to Stan Lee.
Dude, and Marvel is doing some covers this month. And I think I sent you some images of them that are totally cool because, and they're talking about everybody likes him so much because it's essentially just a cover. The top of it has the name of the book, you know, like say Fantastic Four #5 or whatever.
Sure.
And then the rest of the information's on the back. And they look amazing, man. They really look good.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I sent you an article on that, on what they look like.
Did you? You might have. I don't remember.
Yeah, I did. I mean, you were rushing out the door for work or something, but probably. But yeah, they look good. They're tributes to Stan Lee. Then at the bottom it says tributes to Stan Lee.
Oh, cool. Anyway, Miss Marvel 31. Miss Marvel's having a slumber party with all of her friends.
Oh my god, I thought we were through. You're really going to talk about it page for page? Okay.
No, I'm not. She can't enjoy her slumber party because she keeps getting called out on Miss Marvel duty. She's got to go, like, her and Lockjaw run off, like Lockjaw's doing stuff, and then she's got to go help Spider-Man out with something, and then she gets in a fight with a girl with skunk powers for some reason. Anyway, at the end of it, her friends are like, look, where you been? You know, this is your slumber party, and you ain't even been here. And finally she's like, look, I gotta tell y'all something. I'm Miss Marvel. And they're all like, dude, we know. We've known for a while.
Okay.
Anyway, that's Miss Marvel 31.
Next, we have Moon Knight #196. Your boy Max Bemis had a mixed up childhood, man.
Dude, Max Bemis had a mixed up childhood and teenage years and early adulthood.
So last issue, we saw the origin of the Collector. Or the Collective's unconscious. And it's this dude who kept experimenting with these people until they managed to merge all these consciousness together. The problem is everyone that comes into contact with it gets merged into the consciousness also. And this is just bizarre, man. I mean, the art is, the story is, but they basically bring Mark Spector in to clean up the mind, because there's something wrong with the collective headspace and they need him to sort it out. So their theory is, hey, you've sorted out how to figure out these 4 parts of your personalities, the God, Jake Locke, Mark Spector, and Moon Knight. So maybe you can sort out what's going on in our head. And they're like, well, okay, maybe, sure. So they do, and they get a Moon Knight army, and they go around to the different places. The Moon Knights resolve the Opodile complex. The Moon Knights crack down on the collectives.
The edible complex.
Edible complex.
Yeah, which is something.
Thanks, quoting. Anyway.
If you're not familiar with what that is, just Google it.
Moon Knights versus false masculinity. I was hoping he was going to attack Speedos, but he didn't. Anyway, they attack false masculinity, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
All suicidal and homicidal tendencies. When they get through, the place is still a wreck. And they try to figure out what the problem is. What turns out the problem is in the dude's head that created it. So, dude, it just gets more bizarre, man. The Moon Knight army fights dude. Finally, one of them punches him, and he goes unconscious. And then the collective in the real world explodes. And every time you raise your arm to scratch your armpit, I think you're wanting a timeout. I think you're wanting a pause.
No, I'm just
okay. I see your arm going up, and anyway, they managed to, when he hits him, it ends. And dude, this is just, I don't even know what to make of this anymore, man. I mean, because it's great storytelling, but Mark Spector is still crazy, but somehow he's managed to coexist with all four parts of his consciousness, and they just keep delving into all these insanity things, and it's really good, man. It really is.
Yeah, and props to the artist for being able to do this.
Dude, the art in this is I don't even know how to describe the art.
It's not psychedelic, but it's just bonkers.
Yeah, because it just, as they're talking about the insanity of the mindscape, he is drawing the different forms of the insanity and doing it very well. And
yeah,
dude, it's really good.
Yeah, you need some mind altering drugs to be able to even conceive of some of this stuff, let alone draw it. So
yeah, absolutely,
dude, this is great, and I think this has been a really good career move for Max Bemis, who seems to be kind of like on the downslope in his music. That's what Max Bemis did beforehand. He was the lead singer and artist behind the band Say Anything, the punk band Say Anything. They're actually breaking up. Not only because they're done. They're like, look, we've done everything we ever wanted to do. You're writing comic books now. We're doing other things. Hey, let's just call it good.
So,
go ahead.
Just as a side note that nobody but us will probably care about. Remember when you and Eric and I saw Diarrhea Planet at the Bill Street Music Festival?
Yeah.
I'm getting my shoulder done at the therapist, and there's like, it's a big place, they got like 20 something workstations, and there's like a dozen therapists there. And I one of them worked on me several times. I got to be friends with him, and we're talking about different acts that we like. And I mentioned Diarrhea Planet, and dude, turns out they're like this huge cult band.
Yeah, they are.
But they broke up recently.
Yeah, they did.
And they like sold out 3 shows in Nashville in a row where everybody came to see them for their last concert.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, I had no idea, man. He was like, yeah, they were huge. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I knew who they were when we saw them at Bill Street. That was the only time I'd seen them live, and I'm not a regular listener, but I knew who they were.
Dude, they were off the chain, man. But yeah, they broke up.
Yeah, I knew they did. Nah.
Anyway. Okay, back to comic books.
Anyway, Venom #3, written by Donny Cates, who we were talking about earlier, who is a magnificent writer. Art by Ryan Stegman, including the cover. The art in this book is probably the best we've seen all week. The cover's amazing, but the art in this comic is just off the chain good. It's perfect for Venom. Did you read this?
I did not, no.
Go back and read it.
Okay.
The plot is essentially this. If you remember from the last issue, during Vietnam, Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. unleashed some sort of symbiote ancient dragon from the ground. And it's like the god of this, it's the evil god of the symbiotes or whatever. Well, in this issue, Eddie Brock, Venom, and Miles Morales as Spider-Man team up to beat the thing that's attacking New York, is essentially this symbiote dragon. Well, eventually it manifests itself in its more human form. And you realize this thing is essentially I don't know if it's the prime symbiote or what, but it is the evil ancient god of the symbiotes. And he calls himself Null, and he is he's a bad dude, man. Yeah. This is going to get into stuff that happened billions of years ago that it's possible the race of the symbiotes, the Clintar, have forgotten or don't even remember. Donny Cates is taking this in a crazy direction. I'm super into it. It's got a real dark theme to it, which I think is what you need for Venom. It's really good. It is, honestly, especially with the art style, it makes me think of the early Venom stuff in the 90s.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'll go back and read it. I want to go back and read that Multiple Man book too. I wanted to read it. I just ran out of time. And then last night I was reading those X-Men books and realized where they're going with him. And now I want to go back and read it. So Anywho, Old Man Hawkeye #6. This is an affiliate, but it's leading. The first 2 pages are a flashback to where the attack on the heroes happened. And all this goes back to the Wasteland story we were talking about earlier, where the villains rose up and defeated all the heroes in one day. And Hawkeye's having a flashback to that time. He's with Kate Bishop, who's trying to wake him up because he's drugged all. Speaking of Venoms, he's drugged all the Venoms there to be with him. They're there to attack him because they all want to kill him. Finally, he starts setting them on fire until they reconsolidate the power until there's only 2 of them. Then he has a T-Rex chomp on it, and he and Kate get away. And there's some cool stuff at the end of this book, because you realize during the book you see that the Red Skull is wanting to kill Bullseye because he went off the reservation and hunting Hawkeye, and Taskmaster's there, and he knows he can't take Bullseye, but they're bringing the Winter Soldier out of sleep to take Hawkeye.
Oh, cool.
And he, like, at one point they apparently changed his meds and increased his homicidal tendencies, and he broke free and killed like 4 or 5 of the guards when they were trying to transport him there. So yeah, they're sending Bucky out to take care of Bullseye. And next issue is the issue I've been waiting for, which is we find out what happened to the heroes.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I have not been a fan of this comic, but I might go back and read this issue and the next one coming up.
Yeah, it's good because we know what happened to the X-Men, which is Mysterio brainwashed Wolverine so that he killed all of them. But we haven't heard what happened to the heroes and how Hawkeye survived. None of the rest of them did. So now we're going to find out.
Cool. Speaking of heroes, we have Sentry #1.
I really enjoyed this.
I did too. They're bringing the Sentry back. I really enjoy this first page, which is that Watchmen style 9-panel layout. It gives it that kind of like old school comic feel. Anyway, so Bob Reynolds, who is the Sentry, he's a superhero, but he has an alternate ego that is the Void, which is essentially everything evil. And what happens is that he can't keep the Void in check. So occasionally when he's the Sentry and trying to do good things, the Void takes over and he kills lots of people. So this was a problem that Doctor Strange was able to help him with. Essentially, we never quite knew what the remedy was, just that, Bob was living on a mountain in a house somewhere doing whatever. As is explained in the first few pages of this issue, the solution was this. Most of the hours out of the day, Bob is just Bob Reynolds. He's a short order cook at a diner. He's just living his life. It's kind of a crappy life, but for like an hour a day, he transports himself through this machine to what's called Sentry World, which is essentially what the world looked like during the Sentry's prime time, which would have been like 1960s New York. And he gets to be the Sentry, fighting evil and stopping crime and so forth. But the problem is that to keep the Void at bay, he has to do this every day. Well, one day, he goes home, and someone's stolen the machine. And they've used it to transport themselves into Sentry World and promptly kill his sidekicks there. And we'll see who that turns out to be in the next issue. I have a hunch, but
who do you think it is?
I think it's his because what happens is his sidekicks in Sentry World have real life counterparts in the world.
Right.
One of them being his cook assistant at the diner that Bob has been telling him all this stuff about. And I think his boy got curious and decided to go check things out.
Could be. I was thinking it was the Void itself that somehow, instead of Bob going in, the Void went in.
I don't know.
This was a very good book, man.
It was really good. Yeah, we'll find out next issue.
I mean, I had my doubts about it when I saw it, but yeah, this is good. Next we have Thor #2, which is another good book, man. Thor and Loki have gone to hell to, by the way, this is all leading to the War of the Realms.
Yeah.
Which is, they're actually doing a countdown in the Avengers. I mean, every Avengers book I get's now like 2 weeks or 2 months of the War of the Realms, 3 months, 1 month, whatever, to the War of the Realms. So sometime about a year from now, we'll be reading about the War of the Realms and Unlimited. Anyway, they've gone to hell to try and assist in the War of the Realms. They wind up with all their buddies there, Balder, and I didn't know Thor had a third brother, but the third Odin's son.
Yeah, Balder, Tyr, Loki. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some funny stuff in this. And that's what makes this book so good, is while you've got serious fighting going on, it's like he trusts the goat to drive the truck and not Loki. That's funny.
Gnasher, yeah.
Yeah, so Tooth Gnasher's driving the truck instead of Loki, and Loki's all pouty because he won't let Tooth Gnasher do it. Or because he won't let Loki do it. There's just some great lines here. Then we cut to I can't remember. It's Soltar's daughter who is taking over, and she's doing it quite effectively. Anybody that doesn't agree with her in her meeting, she just kills, decapitates, burns.
Cinder, something like that.
I think, yeah. Anyway, they've regrouped and nobody trusts Loki, but they're going him after anyway. The dog, Thori, the dog, falls in love with a dragon.
Yeah.
Which is just funny.
By the way, Thor is not just a dog. He's Thor's pet hellhound.
Yeah, he's a hellhound. And the line we had earlier, they're fighting some people, and Thori never gets to murder anyone.
Yeah, Thori's a murder-crazed hellhound.
Yes. And that they met back during what was it where they resurrected him?
I don't remember.
It's where we discovered how he became unworthy. It was Unworthy Thor. I think it was Unworthy Thor 1 through 5 or something.
Might have been.
Anyway, so he actually turns Thori loose to murder, and Thori's just so happy because he's like, I murder you again, murder you. Everyone get a murder. It's pretty funny. It's kind of like Rocket when he's shooting people.
Yeah. Blam, you're dead. Blam, you're dead.
Yeah, that's what Thori was just really happy because he was getting to run around and eat people and murder them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go, man. This was a really good issue. And as I read these, it's like, and we've discussed this before, Jason Aaron is writing a
saga.
It's a saga. It's like
it's an epic.
Yeah, it's like Homer's work. It's like the Odyssey.
It's an epic.
It's an epic, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, at some point when Jason Aaron does finally move on, you will be able to pick up the very first comic book that he wrote, the first Thor comic book that he wrote, read every issue, and it will be a self-contained story. It will be a very long one, but it will all be one story.
Yeah.
And that includes the Jane Foster stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought the reveal at the end was not unpredictable, but really cool.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Moving on to Star Wars, we have Dr. Aphra number 21. The gist of the book here is that Aphra's been captured by rebels, and if they find out who she really is, they'll turn her over to Darth Vader, and she doesn't want that because Darth Vader will kill her. So she reaches out to Commander Tolvan, who's her friend / lover, to come get her. There's a crazy scheme for them to rescue her that works out for her. There's a few more things going on, but it's like whatever, dude. I like this comic and I like this character, but the art layout and the panel layout in this comic often make it confusing to figure out what exactly is happening.
Yeah.
The art's not bad. It's mostly the panel layout that's just confusing. So I'm not always 100% on what's happening in a particular scene. Speaking of Darth Vader, I've been reading that Darth Vader solo series ahead of Unlimited, and dude, that thing gets good. I read issue 25 is the final issue. I read the final issue the other day. The last story arc is involving Darth Vader constructing his fortress on Mustafar, and that is the pinnacle of that series. Holy crap, it's good.
That's cool. You know what's not good?
This Lando comic.
You told me when you read issue number 1 that it sucked and not even to waste my time. And it wound up with my name on it. Here's what's bad about it.
It's funny how that happened.
It is funny how that happened. I don't know who Rodney Barnes is that wrote this.
Yeah.
But the dialogue is bad.
Dude, the dialogue's real bad.
I mean, it's just I mean, Lando was talking about himself in the third person.
That makes sense for Lando, but the dialogue
between dialogue is so bad.
Yeah, it's awful.
Oh, this book is just bad, man.
I was gonna give it a second issue, because like maybe the first one just wasn't great, or maybe it was going somewhere. No, dude, this book sucks.
No, it sucks.
I read it. It sucks. My main problem with it is that whatever they're doing here has little to nothing to do with the greater story being told in terms of Star Wars. It doesn't tie into anything. It doesn't involve really any other characters in the Star Wars universe. It's just Lando running around being Lando, which sounds like it should be cool, but it ain't. It sucks.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't. This thing's just bad.
Yeah, it ain't good.
It is.
What was your favorite book this week?
There were several contenders. The Century book was really good. Thor was really good. I'm gonna go with Moon Knight number 196, man. Between the goofy art and Max Bemis' writing, and I call it goofy because I literally don't have words to describe it. There was a Winter Soldier series out a couple of years ago that you and I did at the time that was like this. It was just, the art was just really, it looked like it was drawn by somebody on psychedelic drugs. And that's kind of how this is, and we've already alluded to that. It's this Moon Knight book, man.
Yeah, Max Bemis is killing it on Moon Knight, dude. He's got a perfect style for Moon Knight. He has plenty of experience with these sorts of things, so he's perfect to do Moon Knight. And ever since he's started writing the comic, he's just killed every issue.
Yeah, man.
Mine's gonna be Black Panther number 2.
Oh, that was good too. That was really good.
I love Ta-Nehisi Coates as a writer, not just in comic books, but his literary work as well. I shouldn't say literary work because it's not. It's nonfiction, but I like the story being told here. I really enjoy this whole idea of an intergalactic Wakandan empire. I like the idea of him being a rebel against his own empire to save the empire from itself. It's all really good, dude. The art's phenomenal. It's a really cool idea that Ta-Nehisi Coates came up with that Marvel's allowing him to do this.
Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah. In the dump this week, we have Thunderbolts, U.S. Agent, and some Punisher from the 1980s. I don't know why they're filling in on this Thunderbolt stuff all of a sudden, but they are.
Well, I tell you, a while back we were getting these Marvel Spectacular books, and if you look at the top of your browse tab, there's a Killraven War of the Worlds tab up there. And what they did was they finally put them all out, and now they're able to put that whole War of the Worlds thing up there. And this is based on H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds, the book he wrote, and then it became a classic radio show in the 1930s. And I glanced at this. I didn't read it all. I read the first issue and glanced at the second. And it's definitely 70s, okay? I mean, it's definitely 70s art and 70s writing. But this was written by Jerry Conway, and it was drawn by Neil Adams. Okay? This is some good stuff, man. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely 70s dialogue, and it's definitely 70s art and color. But if you want a good story to read, this is a good story. I mean, I when I was a kid, I got a couple of issues of this off the newsstand, which tells you how old I am. But yeah, this is really good stuff.
I might take a look at this then. I didn't realize it was
it's based off H.G. Wells.
Yeah, I didn't realize what this was.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's good.
All right then.
Yeah.
Little gem there for you here at the end of the show. Speaking of the end of the show, we have reached the end of it. That's all the comics that we have. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email us at 6monthsbehind@gmail.com. That's the number 6monthsbehind@gmail.com.
You can check out the website at www.6monthsbehind.com.
And as is our tradition, Pat, would you like to share a little wisdom with us before we go?
I don't know how long Will Rogers has been dead, but I think it's a couple of decades.
As long as I've been alive.
So he probably said this 30 or 40 years ago. And I saw this quote and I was like, holy cow, everything is changing. People are taking the comedian seriously and the politicians as a joke.
Dude. I mean, what else can you say?
Peace.
See ya.